What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs.
Playoffs?
Playoffs?
Playoffs? Playoffs?
Playoffs?
You kidding me?
You kidding me?
Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
We're just trying to win a game.
I'm just trying to win a game.
Playoffs?
Playoffs? We're just trying to win a damn game.
It never gets old. The Colts were 4-6 when Jim Mora was asked about the playoffs, leading to those immortal words. Reporters asked, though, what we were all thinking, because what's more exciting in the final month of the regular season than watching a team run the table against the odds?
Of course, there's hope. Of course, we believe in each other. You know, just going to take one galvanizing moment.
The Packers' playoff dreams may be dashed, but Rodgers is right. Throughout league history, struggling teams have used a pivotal moment to run the table into the playoffs. That moment takes different forms.
I feel like we can run the table. I really do.
Green Bay did just that in 2016 behind Rodgers' flawless stretch. 15 touchdowns, no picks. Kirk Cousins' rallying cry went viral in 2015.
You like that? You like that?
Washington won its final 4 after a 5-7 start. The Giants ran the table to reach Super Bowl 35 after this.
I'm raising the stakes right now. This is a poker game. I'm shoving my chips to the middle of the table. I'm raising the ante. Anybody wants in, get in. Anybody wants out, get out. Okay? This team is going to the playoffs.
Sometimes toughness, not tough love, ignites a team. Walter Payton's less iconic but no less impressive flu game, where he ran for an NFL record 275 yards, sparked Chicago to 5 straight wins. Emmitt Smith's separated shoulder game capped the Cowboys' 5-game win streak to end the '93 season and led to a playoff run culminating in Emmitt's MVP and Super Bowl MVP. Carolina rallied around Cam Newton after he escaped this scene in 2014. Superman then saved the Panthers' season with 4 straight wins. It often takes another type of quarterback moment to turn the tables. The 4-3 Cowboys awarded the job to Roger Staubach in 1971. 10 straight wins later, Dallas had its first Super Bowl title. And Bill Belichick stuck with Tom Brady over a healthy Drew Bledsoe at 5-5 in 2001. New England won out, and a dynasty was born. Now, not all moments signal a playoff run, or certainly not a championship, but the next one could just spur a team to run the table. And why not? It's happened over the last 16 seasons. 16 teams have run the table from a losing record to make the playoffs. And Darren, Teddy, you both did it. In fact, I think in both cases went on to win a Super Bowl. What's it take to sort of adapt that mentality from this point on and run the table?
Well, it takes a lot of mindset. And for us in '93, it was, we played a Thanksgiving Day game and against the Miami Dolphins. The game was close, and at the end of the game, there's that whole fumble that play where Leon Lett touched the ball, and we ended up losing that football game. But it was a rallying cry after that because we wanted to protect our friend Leon Lett because he had such an amazing season. But at the same time, we rallied behind Leon and the rest of the team, and it really actually gelled us together. That incident gelled us back together, and we won every game going forward and ended up winning the Super Bowl, but it was a tough one.
And you were on that team where Emmitt separated his shoulder.
Same year in '93 in New York. And it was another situation where Emmitt was banged up, got hurt early in the game, and continued to play through it. But I think it all started on that Thanksgiving Day game.
Yeah, momentum is a powerful thing when you feel like it's going and going and things are going right for you, because when Brady was in and we continued after that 5-5 mark and ended up going 9-0 after Thanksgiving, I mean, you need mental toughness as a team. You need good coaching. You need good players. You need good fortune, too. Because, I mean, there was that playoff game versus the Oakland Raiders where some think that was a fumble.
Some people
still do. We went into
yeah,
Pittsburgh for the AFC Championship game. We returned 2 kicks for touchdowns.
Oh, wow.
That got us there. And then Ty Law takes a pick 6 versus the Rams in the Super Bowl to win that one. So these are non-offensive touchdowns that we're scoring. So every unit of the team ends up contributing. The ball ends up rolling your way sometimes because good fortune plays a big role.
You know, it's funny. I remember that season so well, and you just felt like it was just sort of meant to be. Obviously, you were doing all you could do, and the team was, but there was a point where you thought this is going to continue, and of course it did. Streaking teams. Let's take a look at who's most likely this time around to run the table. So Houston riding a 9-game winning streak. They started 0-3, which is crazy. The Cowboys have turned around their season. They've won 4 in a row. They're in the driver's seat in the NFC East. Baltimore, Denver, Seattle, and the Rams have won 3 in a row. And of those 6 teams, 5 had a losing record before the streak began. The Rams, of course, not among that group. Teddy, who's the most likely out of this group to run the table, in your opinion?
If I'm thinking about maybe a team and a coach that can take a win and then turn it into a bunch, I'm going to think about the Tennessee Titans, a team that's sitting there with a favorable schedule going up. I think they play what are they at? They got the Jags tonight, then they're at the Giants. They play the Redskins and the Colts at home. But if I know Mike Vrabel and he can take a play and a game and parlay that into some type of motivational tactic, and then continue that for about 3 to 4 weeks where you can win out to finish the season, I'll go with my old friend Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans.
When you flash up that list of teams, every team on that list except the Los Angeles Rams was counted out and left for dead at one point in the season. We wrote off the Cowboys. You wrote off the Broncos. You wrote off the Ravens when they fell below 500. The Seahawks were dead at one point in time.
Absolutely.
All those teams on that list, with the exception of the Rams, have all bounced back, and you wouldn't think that any of them will be able to make the unlikely playoff run that they have. But here they are today, all with a chance to make the postseason.
To your point, not the Rams. That's been an entirely different situation, dominant from the outside. But everybody else, I mean, a month ago, we talked about Jason Garrett and his future in Dallas, and he had to go, and it was over. You buy the Cowboys. Can they push this thing through, Darren?
I think the Cowboys are a team that's there as well. But I look at the Seattle Seahawks, a team that has the next 3 out of 4 games are at home in Seattle. And, you know, they have a tough one here against Minnesota coming up, which is a winnable football game for them. And they play the Kansas City Chiefs, you know, coming up as well at home. But, you know, the only team that they play on the road would be the San Francisco 49ers in the next few weeks, and that's a winnable game as well. I think right now, if you're looking at a team that understands who they are in this league and the identity that they have as far as running the football, playing tough defense behind it, the Seattle Seahawks are sitting in the driver's seat.
And what you're going to see are players that you haven't heard of make a name for themselves too, because
takes that too, I would think.
That's what it takes to run the table like we're talking about, or have a win streak of 3, 4, 5 in a row all the way into the playoffs. I mean, no one knew about some of those Cowboys players, and all of a sudden these guys are making play after play after play. And who's this Darren Woodson guy that, you know, and all of a sudden you got these players, and it's like, so what teams have these guys that can make those big plays? You'll start learning about them.
Well, that Seattle defense, a prime example. Somebody made the point this week, they're sort of a year ahead.
Exactly.
You know, we didn't expect this, maybe this time next year, but so far, so good, at least over the past month. All right, pass catcher spotlight. All right, we're going to need some pass catchers to run the table as well. Teddy, you get the best matchup.
Okay, the best matchup, I'll go with Juju Smith-Schuster of the Pittsburgh Steelers going against the Oakland Raiders, because Juju's one of the top receivers out of the slot. He's having huge success, and the Raiders are struggling defending that slot position. Antonio Brown, of course, will get his attention, but this is what Juju can do. I mean, make a big play, take it to the house. He's got the run after catch ability, and the Raiders do not have success getting after the passer in terms of putting pressure on the quarterback. So Roethlisberger has a lot of time. Juju's there in the slot. Look for Juju to have a big game.
And you don't want Roethlisberger to have a lot of time.
No.
That usually doesn't end well for opposing defenses. How about a tough matchup?
And I love this guy. George Kittle is going to be a superstar in this league. But this week, when you look at the matchup that he has against this Denver Broncos defense, even without Chris Harris, who's lost for the season, this Broncos defense on all 3 levels has played at an amazing rate, and they're going to find ways to get pressure on you with Von Miller. George Kittle, who's the superstar of that San Francisco 49ers offense, is going to have a rough day because the quarterback is going to have a tough time getting the ball out of his hands. Look for Denver Broncos defense to step up.
Superstar, just it's not your week.
Not your week.
Not your week. That's okay. We'll play again. Who do you want regardless?
I'm going to take Adam Thielen. Thielen. I mean, there's a lot of great receivers I can choose from, but I expect a bounce-back game from Thielen because the New England Patriots focused a lot of attention because they knew about the relationship from Thielen and Kirk Cousins here. You even saw Thielen mouthing off to Coach Belichick.
Now they have a relationship.
Yeah, there you go. There's a relationship.
I like that.
Happy holidays, Coach Belichick. One of those conversations. But you know he's going to get 9 to 10 targets a game. Cousins is going to find him. I just like him this week to bounce back.
All right, a pass catcher who may break out, unlike the running back who already broke out when he took Saquon Barkley. Breaking records. That's right. That was the
It's crazy to say this, but Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry has been under the radar, most of this season, and I think he's going to be a breakout candidate this week because we're watching a Carolina Panthers defense that give up big play after big play. They can't cover the slot. They can't cover on the outside. And at some point, Jarvis Landry, with the competitiveness that he's going to have, even coming to the end of the season, he's going to play hard, and Baker Mayfield will find him. Look for Jarvis Landry to have a huge game this week.
Hasn't had one of those in a little bit.
I know it.
A little bit.
Wow.
What you watching?
I think it's the storylines of the Denver Broncos wide receivers. Again, when Emmanuel Sanders goes down, that's a shock to everybody right now. And we mentioned Chris Harris being done potentially for the season, Demaryius Thomas being in Houston, now Emmanuel Sanders being gone. So it's time for Cortland Sutton making that catch right there to make more catches like that. It's time for Deshaun Hamilton, a rookie 4th-round draft pick. And don't forget, they also lost their tight end, Jeff Hireman, a couple of weeks ago. Yep. So they are relying on Matt Lacoste at the tight end position. So there's really new targets all across the board in Denver as the Broncos have turned around this season on this unlikely playoff push.
Yeah, they've turned it around. They've won, 4 in a row, but obviously a tough break yesterday. Matthew Berry, pass catcher, love, hate.
Thanks, Wendy. Pass catcher I love to exceed his projection this week, Adam Humphries of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Since week 9, no player in the NFL has more receiving touchdowns than Adam Humphries. He also leads the Bucs with 26 catches in that span. And this week, he gets to face the Saints defense that's already allowed 8 touchdowns to the slot this season, which is where Humphries plays the majority of his snaps. Give me the over on his projection of 10.4 this week. As for a pass catcher I'm not so crazy about this week, it's Tyler Lockett. I get it. Lockett just keeps scoring touchdowns, but it's hard to ignore the fact that he's still averaging under 5 targets per game. His matchup with Minnesota this week, a major concern since week 6. Vikings, a top 7 defense in terms of deep completions and deep touchdowns allowed, which is how Lockett scores the majority of his fantasy points. Add in some potential shadow coverage from Xavier Rhodes, and I want the under on Lockett's projection of 11 points this week.